Intelligence indicates widespread unauthorized access to prominent content broadcasters' systems.
This was not quite what I was expecting at 3 AM last night during the Game Awards, but yes, Den of Wolves, made by none other than 10 Chambers, which includes Simon Viklund and Ulf Anderson of Payday fame, finally has a gameplay trailer, and I was roped into the reveal. To be clear, this video is in no way sponsored. It comes purely from a place of genuine interest in what 10 Chambers seems to be doing with their new techno-futuristic, mind-bending 4-player co-op heisting game. If that sounds like a mouthful to you, that's because it is. Conceptually, it's a hell of a lot harder to wrap your head around the sort of heisting game Den of Wolves intends to be, but as we saw with GTFO, that doesn't really hold back Simon and Ulf, who seem more driven by the idea of creating unique experiences rather than sticking to the formula that works so well within Payday the Heist and 2. Although, let me tell you, they will keep reminding you that they did work on those oh-so-successful heisting titles back in the day. Today I'm going to run you through the gameplay trailer shot by shot to discuss exactly what we're seeing here, as well as touch on the ARG and unique style of marketing these guys are experts in. Den of Wolves looks incredibly promising, but without a confirmed release year and a plan to go into early access, I have no idea how far along most of this is, as it feels like a very tight snapshot of the game as it stands. First of all, the streamer hack marketing approach has been done 2 years running now, and is still an excellent way to directly pique the interest of viewers amongst a sea of ads and trailers as the Game Awards becomes more and more of an industry vehicle. It was good fun as a participant, and for those willing to dig deeper, comes with small rewards of additional files and screenshots that are excellent world building and might just be teasing the content of these initial launch heists shown within the trailer. In this case, we get an in-game screenshot and, if I'm not mistaken, blueprints for some sort of heist on a life-preserving sarcophagus called a life cache, which I'm guessing we're going to use to potentially hack the mind of the individual within. As I've already alluded to, the loot in Den of Wolves looks like it's going to go in a much more intangible and conceptual direction than the classic cash and goal we've seen in the past. This is likely going to lead to the sort of reality-warping, mind-bending gameplay we see towards the end of the trailer, which is less Heat, more Silent Hill. I love these secret-esque puzzles, and by the looks of things, we have dozens more nodes to get through in the future. But that brings us on to the trailer analysis, which is what you really came for. You might remember from the Bowman cinematic trailer last year, the Den of Wolves is a syndicate of criminals performing all sorts of corporate espionage within the fictional, unregulated, capitalistic paradise of Midway City. It's a really gripping premise, and from the scenery shots we get at the start of this gameplay trailer, will be an oppressive neon paradise of corporate debauchery, giving off serious Blade Runner vibes at a glance. Its Pacific Ocean setting also gives it this unexpected Asian theme running throughout, with this building, Kazoku, sporting kanji that means an exalted lineage. It's quite impressive world building from frame 1. You get a great idea of the sorts of heists we might pull off, and exactly the sorts of people who will be contracting and suffering at the hands of our crimes. The Den of Wolves themselves, as in the characters, will split opinion, I suspect. I've seen a lot of chatter around their masks, looking like some sort of freaky bondage equipment, and they're certainly on the edgier side of things. That trademark Payday humour and humanity seems to have gone out of the window, which totally fits the world, but might make it harder for players to resonate with specific characters and their designs, which I genuinely believe is the only reason Payday has lasted as long as it has. I'm still undecided, but right now their personalities aren't shining through, which I found to be a similar issue experienced by GTFO. Again, we see more Chinese characters and neon lights in this frame, although my kanji abilities are letting me down these days, as although I recognise the symbol for black, the only translation I find is for black blowgun, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Regardless, the aesthetic is sensational as we finally step into first person to see what these heists will entail. This is a shot of the full crew outside of the first person perspective, with pink jacket, tank top and tight grey suit here walking ahead. Notice the tank top guy is carrying some equipment we'll see later, and is very evocative of some of the more involved GTFO mechanics. You see, the guys at 10 Chambers really prioritise co-op gameplay for better or for worse, which can lead to situations where you, as the objective carrier, are totally at the mercy of your crewmates protecting you whilst incapacitated. This can lead to incredible gameplay moments, but can also be immensely frustrating depending on the sort of player you are and your access to willing friends. This next shot really excites me though, as we get back to basics with a vault drilling section. Except in Den of Wolves, the drill is a robot with cute little legs. We also see clearly that from the first clip there will be a casing mode, or mode without weapons drawn, because they're now visible in this shot. Hard to comment too much on the weapons we see here. They seem to take a lot of visual cues from GTFO, but across this trailer we see quite a few variations. There's this standard looking assault rifle, an SMG or machine pistol, what seems to be a semi-auto shotgun, a secondary pistol, and an LMG. I like their sights and the futuristic ways they seem to split apart to reload, but my initial fear is that although their designs are really solid and fit the world excellently, without having a chance to try them out, they look a little floaty and low impact in a gunfight. I had a similar issue with weapon firing weight in GTFO, so wonder if it's just a result of the engine or if it's intentional design. Back to where we were in the gameplay, this pile of what I assume to be corpses sets a really dark tone to the game. I don't know if this is mechanical debris, it's hard to tell in motion and from a distance, but it's still evocative of something fairly grim. Moving on to this clip from the same map, we see more bodies piled off in the distance as this massive dome opens up, not to reveal a fully stocked vault, but again a person placed within this red film, something we've seen before and will again later on in this trailer, that appears to tie to the unconventional objectives of Den of Wolves. As I mentioned earlier, this is now the first-person view of carrying that heavy two-handed item, which seems to have something to do with encryption. I wonder if this is what we need to bring into that dome, or maybe it's just a tool we can use to assist on the heist like the phone was to GTFO. As we glance up during this section, we'll see a pair of NPCs watching on passively, which seems to suggest the possibility of a fleshed-out casing mode or civilian presence on these heists. Into the loud gameplay section, there's a lot to take in here. Again, some of the combat looks a little floaty, but the environments are really impressive and it's good to hear from the Den of Wolves heisters themselves. I assume the voiceover, Dallas of the future, is Grey Suit and Gagball here, as he's been at the forefront of marketing so far. Then we have what sounds to be a gruff male English accent. Could be the same guy though. A much more softly spoken, potentially Asian American accent. And Bonnie from 2097, as the lady in the crew does have a Scottish twang to her voice. Prepare for my accent sensors to be miles off on release day though. I also noticed these characters are carrying single bags on their backs. If those aren't loot bags, I don't know what they could be, so maybe there will be some traditional valuables to steal, whether those are high-tech components, precious metals, or just cold hard cash, it's really tough to say. What caught me off guard here is just how dynamic the heisting environments seem to be. These rotating doorways, or what seem to be destructible walls, are everything I've been asking for in a Payday game for years, especially if we as the players get to have some control over that. It makes the heisting fantasy so much more tactical if it is the sort of thing they've been able to pull off in Den of Wolves. We also get an idea here, thanks to HUD pop-ups, just what the objective of this heist is, as they're seeking out 3 separate keys to the dome, which is described here as a vault, lending credence to my expectation that the loot on this heist is going to be incredibly unconventional. Again, the way this information is being conveyed is incredibly GTFO-pilled, which makes me wonder if these are placeholders or if the style just fits well in both universes. Same goes for the crewmate is down pop-up, as we see they've apparently killed Vlad. We also get to see some new innovative tools at work, as the futuristic setting allows the 10 Chambers team to get creative with designs. This energy shield deployable is a perfect example of something that just wouldn't be logistically possible for a game set in modern day, but makes absolute sense from a gameplay perspective. I also can't help but think it's entirely intentional that they briefly showcase the bones of a melee system, given that's still missing in a certain other game. Glancing at the enemies, there does seem to be a fair bit of variation in what the Den of Wolves are coming up against. They start by fighting off these cyberpunk-style, tattooed gang members, before running up against fully suited up Doomslayer guys seemingly later in the mission. Maybe we're looking at law enforcement versus rival gangs, as there do seem to be multiple factions, but it could just as easily be the case that these green guys are the heavier response that show up later. I've also not spotted any special variant enemies within this trailer, unless that's just something I'm missing. What is totally off the wall from a gameplay perspective is this post-title card scene after the crew dive in. Clearly this is the contents of the vault, the individual within the red chamber, all hooked up to different tubes and devices. It seems, from the physically impossible gravity-defying space they're running through, that they somehow enter the psyche of this person through some digital tool to steal something inside. Maybe the real loot on this heist is company secrets or valuable intel that can only be reached by breaking down memories. At a glance, it looks to be a trippy, surreal platforming section that seems totally foreign to the heisting genre. I'm not so sure how these sections are going to play out. They tend to be better suited to linear set-piece experiences instead of replayable co-op games. But you really can't fault their desire to do something completely new here. The possibilities of what they can get away with using these techno-thriller themes are really exciting. Taking a step back, the overall feel of this gameplay is impressive. There's a floatiness to it that I can't really comment on till I've played, but the lighting looks exceptional. Simon Vicklund is a master at crafting audio that pairs perfectly with whatever's on your screen, and he also seems to have done a bloody good job with the narrative and world building if these environments are anything to go off. I'm tentatively impressed, but in case you weren't aware, I am now legally protected against getting blown away by anything. Once bitten, twice shy and all that. I will approach Den of Wolves with a bit of caution, but its genuinely alien-looking heist concepts appear to help it stand alone, instead of competing with Payday 3 on its own battleground. Currently, Payday 3 is losing a war against itself, so it's probably a good thing that Den of Wolves looks to be ducking the fight and focusing on its own unique premise. That being said, it appears to have a lot of GTFO DNA in there, as the team have stuck with the Unity engine for its development. I do wonder if it's going to be a game that's too hardcore for some, but stepping out of the pseudo-horror genre and into something more heist-focused could be a stroke of genius that sees Ulf, Simon, and the team's work graduate to the mainstream. We just don't have a clue when the hell it's landing, which is an indicator that despite this incredibly impressive trailer, I don't know how much of a game they actually have yet. These foundations look good, but we could be waiting quite some time before we see this vision materialize, and with how well funded 10 Chambers seem to be, that might even be a good thing. Let me know what you thought of Den of Wolves at the Game Awards this year down in the comments. Do you think we're looking at a Payday killer here, or is it just too early to tell? And please, if you'd like to hear more about the game, give this video a like to let me know there's a genuine interest, and stick around on the channel as more news comes out. It's been refreshing talking about something I know relatively little about, and I'm just excited to see develop in the future. Thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you all in the next video. A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.